I have played the Lord of the Rings online for a long time, and 4 years ago, I made a video on why I play LOTRO. So today, I will be reviewing why I still play LOTRO in 2023, and later comparing to my original reasons for playing the game back in 2019. So the biggest thing about a game is its gameplay, and for LOTRO, one of the big draws for me was its similarity to other MMOs when I started around 2010. Even to this day, LOTRO falling into the classic MMO genre with tab targeting and real-time ability-based gameplay is a big reason I play LOTRO. I also think that LOTRO is great from a general class design perspective, which defines how your character plays in combat, but what I think the game does even better is class role and variety, especially given the constraints of the Lord of the Rings lore, which we'll talk about more later. But LOTRO offers a lot of classes with a lot of unique gameplay, and even each class can have a unique subset of gameplay experiences within its specs. As someone who has played a lot of LOTRO, having all these choices can indeed help keep the gameplay fresh, but I also must admit here that the Warden class is so unique within the RPG genre as a whole that I actually do find LOTRO to be worth sticking around at least partially just to play the Warden. I also do want to address the competition to LOTRO, if you can even call it that. So other MMO games that I have played around the general time that I became active with LOTRO include things like World of Warcraft, Rift, Guild Wars 2, and Neverwinter, just to name a few. For example, Neverwinter, that one just quickly fell off for me. Guild Wars 2 is a game that I've actually tried to play so many times and tried to like because of the raving reviews, even from my friends who actually play the game, but I just don't have fun with the gameplay, to be honest, unlike the classic tab target MMOs. Rift fits that criterion, but I could never get immersed into the world, and I found leveling to just not really be a very fun experience in Rift. WoW and Classic WoW have been the biggest competitors for my MMO time, but outside of big updates such as the Dragonflight expansion, which I actually thoroughly enjoyed in WoW, I always now fall back to LOTRO instead. For Classic WoW, I basically got my fill out of playing it, and I'm happy having that experience, but it's something that I have basically completed, and right now I just don't have a reason to go back. So what is it that sets LOTRO apart from these other options and even newer MMOs that I have played? Well, I think the core foundation of gameplay is really important. While I don't refrain from criticizing certain aspects of certain classes, every class in LOTRO has a core gameplay kit that is fun to me. There is a lot of flavor with classes and different abilities, and very importantly, they all connect to the world of Middle-earth in some way. Whether you are calling down light from the legendary Eärendil, or channeling your inner Aragorn by invoking the spirit of Elendil, everything makes you feel like you are a real Lord of the Rings entity. Enemies that you face also have this connection, from the sparingly used Nameless to the common orc and mighty Uruk-hai. It is a living and breathing Lord of the Rings world. The immersive factor really does make a difference, and if I compare LOTRO to, say, a recently released MMO like New World, it is like night and day contrast on just how much more connected I am to the LOTRO world. At this point, I haven't even talked about questing, the storylines, the world building, or the lore. LOTRO is commonly praised for how true it is to lore, especially given the constraints of being an MMORPG and still being like fun from a gameplay perspective. It's actually a significant challenge to balance being a fun game with like a wide variety of zones, biomes, landscapes, fauna, creatures, enemies, all that sort of stuff, all while remaining within the confines of Tolkien's lore. I realize I am actually the reverse of a good number of LOTRO players, and that the game itself has made me more interested in the lore, rather than starting LOTRO just because it's another Lord of the Rings game, but I actually think that that speaks volumes to how well it's done. Now, common questing in the game is going to involve a lot of fetch and kill type quests. This is basically bog standard stock MMO content, and it is not really going to be for everybody. Yet for me, I actually really enjoy that type of content, and as silly as it may seem, I do enjoy that aspect of quests in LOTRO. Of course, there are more story-driven quests in the game and some unique quests, but these are typically used sparingly in zone storylines, and they come up most often in the book quest series, which By the way, if you play LOTRO, you do get to experience the Lord of the Rings storyline and events from the perspective of an adventurer. At times, you may even find yourself feeling like a true member of the Fellowship. LOTRO questing and leveling may not be for everyone, but is any game really perfect? A huge part of what ties the overall Lord of the Rings Online experience together is the world building. With very few exceptions, I absolutely love the world building of all these zones, even instances as well in the game. Yes, the graphics fidelity in LOTRO remains a bit outdated. I mean, the game launched over 16 years ago, but the way the world is designed, in my experience, is unmatched by any other MMO that I have played. While I do think the little things in LOTRO's world building really make the world feel immersive and alive while you're playing, it's actually the bigger picture that sets LOTRO's world apart in my experience. There's just a much larger sense of scale in LOTRO's world compared to other MMOs that I have played, and I don't even mean just how massive the world is and all the areas you can physically explore, but just how grand the landscape both looks and feels while you are just playing the game. So this combination of the world building and its alive Lord of the Rings world with questing creates really such just an immersive experience that is a big reason why I play. I honestly think this is something you have to actually experience playing the game. I really don't know how well it translates in the video. A big part of MMOs is group content and playing with others. You can treat LOTRO as a single-player RPG that just happens to have a world filled with other players, but group content is going to be featured throughout the leveling experience of LOTRO. Like many MMOs, LOTRO has a lot of dungeons, including 3-man and 6-man instances is how it works, but they also have raids at old level caps. I admit it can be hard actually to find groups for dungeons as you unlock them while leveling, but if you ask the Endgame chat and check the LOTRO forums, Reddit, and maybe some Discord servers, you may find yourself a regular group or even a kinship, which is LOTRO's version of a guild to run low to mid-level group content with while leveling. Personally, I actually love a lot of LOTRO's lower level dungeons, and usually I will jump on the chance whenever I get the opportunity to run a low level instance on level with the group. Not every instance is going to blow you out of the water with unique mechanics and features, but LOTRO does have its share of unique encounters. I don't really want to spoil anything because to me that is actually the fun of dungeons and raids, is discovering the mechanics on your own with a good group of friends. And because LOTRO has set the precedent of enjoyable instances, to me that discovery is actually one of the reasons I still play LOTRO. So at this point, we're getting into the follow-up of my previous video where I discussed why I haven't played as much in-game group content in LOTRO lately. I honestly don't play LOTRO nowadays for more dedicated end-game progression. I just don't think it's a great game for me, at least, for gear grinding and that sort of stuff to just run harder versions of the same instances. Some players certainly still enjoy that, but I now mostly run new instances once at a baseline level, and then thereafter I'll run it when my kin does one of their weekly events. I have found this to be actually a great balance, so I don't feel like I'm basically wasting my time with overgrinding, but it does let me enjoy the content and experience that dungeons and raids provide, which I still do, for the most part, really enjoy. Ultimately, this playstyle though is one reason I play LOTRO, and to be fair, I actually don't know that I'd play LOTRO nearly as much as I do if it just had no endgame group content. But what about grouping in the open world? Except for a few endgame relevant areas for group quests from historical level caps in the game, most of LOTRO landscape content is very easy and not much of a challenge even when solo, much less with a group or 2 or more players. But something that has actually fueled my recent surge in increased LOTRO playtime this summer has been the new landscape difficulty feature that is now freely available for everyone to use. This feature allows you to increase the landscape difficulty, and while there's not a ton in terms of rewards, you do get some small benefits from it at least, but the real appeal here is increasing your difficulty level just kind of like the way you would with a single player RPG. It just adds a challenge and dynamic back to the game that is actually reminiscent of old school LOTRO. For me, while playing solo, this is just another layer of immersion, and I've actually come to appreciate the little bit of slower pace that the increased challenge brings. It also makes me actually use more than just a select few powerful abilities for my class. I have to actually use utility and balance my usage of certain skills and playstyles, which really highlights that part of LOTRO class design that I have always enjoyed. What's even more is that this feature is a slider, so if you're running with a group, you can just keep turning the difficulty up to create a slower paced and more challenging experience even when running around doing like normal quests with up to 6 players. While I don't know what all other MMOs are up to, as far as I can tell, this is actually a fairly unique experience that LOTRO offers, and again, has certainly increased my playtime as of late. Something else that has really improved a lot with LOTRO the past couple years, and in comparison to 2019, is significantly lessened repetitive grinding while leveling, especially with alts. This is in regards here to the legendary items, which now scale much more easily with your character level, and with clash trait points, which are now gotten just from leveling. That's the type of stuff that actually used to limit my LOTRO playtime, but now the game is more stress-free because of it, and honestly, games shouldn't even be stressful in the first place. They're here for fun. But at the very least, these significant changes give me less reason to not play LOTRO. While it's just 2 changes here, they have actually massively affected my outlook on long-term goals when playing LOTRO, which I think building these goals is actually a great part of the MMO genre and one of the appeals to me. Somewhat unrelated, but another set of things going on from the development of LOTRO standpoint the past year or so, the LOTRO team has really stepped up in freshening up all the classes and specs and giving some very outdated classes some much needed revamps to be more in line with modern LOTRO classes. While I don't personally agree with all the changes that they either plan to make or have made, every revamp so far has at least had some improvements to the class and certainly made them feel again more in line with modern LOTRO. This is another seemingly little thing that has actually increased my LOTRO playtime because I'm just interested in testing and just playing through the new class experiences. And there is actually one more very important part of the LOTRO experience that I would be remiss without sharing, and that is the community. While just playing LOTRO, I see why the community is widely praised. In my experience, it leans towards a lower pressure and friendlier community than other games, and especially other MMOs. I mean, just look how nice the comment section of this video is. In reality, the community helps make the game more enjoyable while playing to me, and if you are into it, there are tons of community events on different servers, whether it's raiding or player-run concerts. A lot of it is the result of the community. At this point, looking forward to the future of LOTRO, I'm more excited than I have been in a while. With the huge quality of life changes the past couple years, addition of delvings, the landscape difficulty slider, and all the class revamps ongoing, I am really looking forward to the Umbar expansion and experiencing that later this year. On top of that, we are getting a new class with the Mariner, and as I covered in a separate video, this class I think has huge potential for LOTRO. Let me know what you think of LOTRO and why you play, or if you don't play, why not? Anyway, if you did enjoy, don't forget to like and subscribe, and thanks for watching everyone.